Good morning, YouTube. So I tore that old Grizzly LED trouble light apart here. I had to basically just cut this whole thing apart. They have actually two bumps on the plastic pieces that go into holes there. They were so tight on there I could get one side to pop out, but then if you tried to pop the other side out with a screwdriver or something, it was just so tight you couldn't get it to slide. One of the bumps was the on-off switch there that went through that hole. But anyway, I got that apart. So I picked up this coiled 12-volt lighter plug cord. This is actually from Radio Shack. I didn't remember where I'd bought that, but I think I'll hold on to this. This is kind of handy. It was a lighter plug with a coiled extension cord on it, and that's what I had soldered on to the end of the light stick there. Anyway, this is the circuit board in there. So it's groups of 3 LEDs. These are all in series there. You can see how the traces all run down. 3 in series. 20 strings of 3 LEDs each. There's the incoming power. This was what held this thing inside the tube. And the other side, there's the switch. You had the on-off switch there. And one thing you'll notice that there's nothing on the back side other than traces. There are no current limiting resistors. So all they have is 3 LEDs in series. So I'm thinking this power supply that was hardwired on here, it said 12 volts, but I think it must have been current limited, and it would probably drop the voltage to something around 9 volts to control the current through these LEDs. I mean, there is no current limiting resistor, there's no voltage or current regulator. There is absolutely nothing on here. So yeah, that explains why this thing did not hold up. Yeah, correcting the date there, 2004. I went back and looked up the creation date on the photo that I took of this light when I first installed it. And that was July 2005, so that would check out the 2004 build date. So I probably bought that like in the spring of 2005, and then I installed it, and it started burning out right away. I did find a photo here. This was the power supply that was supplied with the 12-volt trouble light. It's listed as a class 2 power unit, 120 volt input, 12 volt DC, 400 milliamp output. Yeah, this must have been used for something else because this was hardwired from the bottom of the power supply right into the trouble light, and that's where I cut it off. But they're showing a picture here of a coax power plug. But the important thing, I guess I didn't really pay attention here, is this 400 milliamps, because that trouble light is wired up. It has 20 strings of 3 in series. So if you take that 20 strings and divide into 400 milliamps, you end up with about 20 milliamps per series string, which is probably a little bit overdriven, but that was kind of common back in the day. LEDs back in the early 2000s weren't all that great, and these were small straw hat LEDs. They weren't the modern chip on board kind of higher output ones. So they were probably trying to make it as bright as possible and using this power supply to limit the current. The problem with doing that, though, is that's assuming all 60 of those LEDs or all 20 groups have identically the same voltage drop, because if one of those groups of 3 is a few millivolts lower drop than the one next to it, the lower one is going to get much more current than the higher voltage string. So there's no current balancing on that whole light. So even with this adapter, it probably would burn out in short order. I was looking at this 12 volt DC. Your car battery is 12 volt DC. It ought to work, but it turns out all the current limiting was built in here And I think this was one of the first 12-volt LED lights that I had ever run across, and I thought, hey, this would be great. I could use this in the truck. It's 12 volts, it's DC, that ought to work. So the problem was, as you saw in the earlier part of the video, I basically had to destroy the light to open it up and see what was inside. I always like buying lights that list a range of voltages that they can operate at. So for instance, I just got some LED bulbs to put in a different work light or trouble light, and they're rated from 10 to 30. So they'll work on a 12 volt system, a 24 volt system, or anywhere in between, and that's what you really want. You don't want something that's 12 volts, or like in this case, it's really a 9 volt, 400 milliamp light, not a 12 volt. It just shows you like 18 years worth of advancement in LED lighting technology. This was 2004 vintage. Everything was in the power supply. Nothing was in the light itself. You flip over to now and all the regulation is in the light, and the power supply just supplies power, and it's up to the light to regulate the current and the voltage and do whatever it needs to do. So yeah, the things have changed, but I thought I'd show you that. So anyway, hope you found that interesting, and as always, thanks for watching.